Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, having trained more than 24,000 pets, helping you and your fur babies thrive. Live in studio, it's Pet Talk Today with Will Bangura, answering your pet behavior and training questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host and favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Good Saturday morning. It's January 30th. Thanks for tuning in and letting us be part of your Saturday morning. I'm Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX, where we talk about everything dog and cat and other pets each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Do you have a crazy cat or an out-of-control dog that desperately needs some training and behavior help? Are you fed up with your pets just not listening? Well, maybe you've got a bird that's bonkers, a rabbit with bad habits, or a temperamental turtle. It doesn't matter what the problem is. That's what we do here on Pet Talk Today. I'm here to help you deal with all of your pet behavior problems. Besides taking your calls and answering your pet behavior questions, we also from time to time have guests on the show to interview. And that's the case today. In a little bit, I'll be interviewing my special guest, Travis Hall, a member of the Army's Special Forces who not only served heroically in Iraq as a canine handler, but is a hero today with Second Chance Canine, a nonprofit organization that Travis founded. Second Chance Canine is in the business of saving dogs' lives and turning them into service dogs for other military veterans who desperately need them. You're not going to want to miss this interview, and you won't want to miss Travis's story of his time in Iraq, as well as the story of Second Chance Canine and how Travis is impacting in a positive way the lives of dogs at risk and veterans at risk as well. But right now, it's time for Pet Talk News. Well, as you're waiting to possibly get your COVID vaccination, or maybe not, what's been said is that cats and dogs may need to get the COVID vaccine to curb the spread of the virus. Well, that's what a group of scientists are saying. Coronavirus can infect a wide range of domesticated animals, and experts have said that giving pets the jab is a precaution to reduce the risks of the virus spreading further. Experts from the University of Minnesota wrote in the journal Virulence that continued evolution of the virus in animals followed by transmission to humans poses a significant long-term risk to public health. They said it's not unthinkable that the vaccination of some domesticated animal species might be necessary to curb the spread of the infection. Dogs and cats can contract coronavirus. Evidence suggests that they may be able to pass it on to humans. Scientists say it makes sense to develop vaccines for pets for domesticated animals just as a precaution to reduce the risk. What we need to be as a human society, we really need to be prepared for any eventuality when it comes to COVID, they say. They said they think the best way to do that is to indeed consider development of a vaccine for animals as well. Interestingly enough, the Russians have already started to develop a vaccine for pets, which there's very little information about. Kevin Tyler, editor-in-chief of Virulence, said cats are asymptomatic, but they are infected by it, and they can infect humans with it as well. The risk is that as long as there are these reservoirs, that it starts to pass as it did in the mink from animal to animal, and then starts to evolve animal-specific strains. But then they spill back into the human population, and you end up with essentially a new virus, which is related, which causes the whole thing all over again. Hence, the vaccination of domesticated animals might be required to halt further virus evolution and spillback events. Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. Well, the first dogs have arrived at the White House. Major and Champ Biden can officially call the White House home. President Biden's pair of pups moved into the executive mansion on Sunday. Photos provided by the White House showed the German Shepherds looking comfy in their new digs, with one waving a tongue while playfully prancing around the South Lawn. In another snapshot, Dr. Jill Biden is seen giving some TLC to one of the family's canine companions. Major, the Biden's newest German Shepherd, is making history as the first shelter rescue dog to reside in the White House. The President and First Lady adopted him from the Delaware Humane Society in 2018. The Bidens' two pooches have amassed a loyal fan following after the 4-year absence of a furry first family member at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as former President Trump was the first commander-in-chief in a century not to own a dog. Really? Huh. I thought his lapdog went to Mar-a-Lago just the other day. Wasn't that what happened with Kevin McCarthy? Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and take a break anyway. I'm your host, Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk today on 1100 KFNX. When we come back, you won't want to miss this interview. They're doing amazing things with service dogs and veterans. We'll be right back after these messages.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of
Welcome back. I'm Will Bangura, and you are listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX, where I take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. This particular week, we're actually going to be speaking with Travis Hall, a member of the Elite Special Forces team and also the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Second Chance Canine. I'm very honored to have as my very special guest, Travis Hall. Travis, welcome to Pet Talk Today.
Hey, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, first, let me say thank you for your service and your personal sacrifices that you've made for all of us, here in the United States. I think too often we take for granted the liberties and the freedom that we have, and it's only because of honorable men like yourself. So thank you for that.
Oh, man. You know what? I appreciate it, and thank you for saying that, but you did me a huge honor just letting me do it. I was Peter Pan for 18 years as a Green Beret, and it was my honor and my privilege to be able to do that. There's very few people that can claim the title Green Beret, and I feel proud to be one of the guys that can.
And I'm honored to have you here on the show. Now, you were a canine handler, is that correct?
Yeah, so I was one of the first 12 canine handlers in Special Forces, and specifically 5th Group. The way it works in Special Forces is because our dogs are so specialized and what we do is so specialized. While I'm by trade an 18 Delta or a Special Forces medic, what I was able to do was stay on a team longer by being a dog handler. And so I jumped on that opportunity and ended up taking my dog to Iraq 4 times while doing that.
Wow. What were some of the things that you encountered when you were there, as a canine handler?
In Iraq, it was interesting. It was a mix of people that were terrified of dogs versus, like some people were like pretty open to experiencing it. My dog was a bomb, bite, and tracking dog. So he was a triple threat dog. He was able to find bombs that were either in houses, vehicles, things like that were trying to injure my fellow Green Berets or, the support staff. He was able to track people and able to, like, if someone left a print or a sent a pad somewhere we could kind of follow that guy and see where he was kind of trying to hide out, as well as he was an apprehension dog. So he was trained to, go in the house first and be, kind of lead the way as we would charge into houses looking for, really terrible people that were doing terrible things to people. And, he was good at it. I mean, he was a great dog. He was so awesome at his job. He thrived on it. He himself, I feel like if he was a person, he would have been a Green Beret.
So oftentimes the canine, the dog, is going into danger first. Is that right?
Yeah. It was a love-hate relationship for me to throw my dog into danger.
Absolutely.
First. I loved it in that, he was able to, and there have been several situations where the canine would sacrifice their lives for us.
Yeah.
And it saves American and soldiers' lives. And so it was a little bit of a love-hate for me. I knew I was always putting him and myself in harm's way.
Well, that's just it. What I was going to say is, and how far behind the dog are you?
At max 30 feet.
Yeah. So,
that's like, that was he could go off leash really far, but I didn't feel comfortable leaving him out to dry that far. So most times I wasn't real far behind, so when he was going into penetrating a house or going into a door, I was pretty right behind him most times. He's a lot faster than I am. So he would get through the house a lot quicker than I am. His senses were so much more in tune that he could blow past things that he knew were safe that I wouldn't know were safe. And so I would slow down and check things and he would go straight for the bad guys, so I was never far from him.
It's fascinating. And I think that's something that, a lot of us don't think about. We think about the dangers, and especially, with the war on terrorism, and we think about, elite forces going in, but how many times do we think about, okay, of that elite force going in, there's a canine and there's a canine handler, and oftentimes they're going in first. They're the ones that are really in the biggest danger.
I mean, yeah, that was the job, and my buddies and my teammates, they were never far behind me. So I was never doing it by myself. It's
Absolutely.
Always very much a team effort, like there's a group of us, that would do this together, and Bear, or his common name was Ferret. But
and that's your dog. That's your dog.
Yeah,
right?
That's my dog. Yeah. His common name was Ferret, like iron in Latin, but we called him Bear. And Bear was always, he was always 100% willing to lead that charge. He was always 100% to say, pick me, I'll go first, kind of thing.
Now, in your group, in your team, were you the only dog and canine team? I mean,
yeah, so
handler and canine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's one per. We had I think when we finally got our full potential, we were at 12 dogs in the full on unit. But yeah, when you're a canine handler, you're by yourself. You're the one canine handler. Got it.
And what kind of dog was Bear?
Bear was a little bit of a mix. He was probably 75-80% Malinois, Belgian Malinois, and he was a little bit German Shepherd. The breeder overseas that bred him, he was actually pretty smart on it, and I've kind of researched and looked into things as I'm out of the dog handling world now and doing it more on the civilian side. And I really appreciate the lot of Malinois and the little bit of German Shepherd. They have a ton of drive, but they also have a pretty solid head on them without the medical problems that some of the German Shepherds face.
That's interesting. As someone that's owned both breeds, that makes a lot of sense.
Malinois are wide open.
Sure.
Like fully wide open.
Full
which
throttle.
is great when you're, full throttle when you're doing like apprehension work and that dog's one job is to bite people. And that's awesome for that. Bear had several jobs, like his job was to kind of get level headed and track people. His job was to do some intense searches. And so that little bit of German Shepherd just kind of gave him a little bit of a thinking man's game instead of so much rushing in and kind of jumping into it.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Now, was that done by design? Is that what you're saying? That particular breeder?
I don't know, because I never met the breeder himself. Like we would go through a subcontractor who brings them to the States for us, and the military purchases them. So I never met the actual breeder, but just from interviews with the people that brought him over and my own research, I've figured out that's his lineage. Like that's his line. We did have access to who his family was, so it made it easy for me to kind of research about where he came from and what led him to breed him that way.
Sure. Now, was Bear the only dog that you had as a handler the whole time that you were?
He was my only dog I deployed with. He was my third dog in a string of dogs to get to deployment level.
Okay.
So we're trying so hard to do these specialized dogs. Having a dog that does 3 tasks like that is rare, is very rare.
Exactly.
Most dogs are either apprehension. Some dogs are single, they call it single purpose, where they're bomb dogs or drug dogs. To have a dog that could do those 3 tasks and to do them so well, it's a rare dog. Just like Green Berets, the song says, a 100 will test today, but only 3 will win the Green Beret. It's the same with Bear. He was a Green Beret, and it took me several dogs of trials to see if they would make the cut in order to find him.
Yeah, that's tough. What's some of the most difficult things for the dogs to have to be able to do, have to pass to make the cut, where some of the dogs are washouts? What are some of those things that an average civilian might not know about?
Just the level-headedness of being able to transition from fast roping out of a helicopter to jumping out of an airplane. The ability to not destroy their own guys. I took a lot of time with my fellow Green Berets, and we do a lot of training where that Bear, he got to know their smells, and he got to know their look, per se, and so when he did go in a house, if someone was coming from, say, a different direction, he just didn't, nuke that guy because it was a body in front of him. That's one of the harder things to do, is because when they go into that fight mode, man, they just want to fight. They're looking for that fight. And so to have a dog that was level-headed enough to say, oh, that's not the guy I want to fight, and go for someone else it's pretty rare.
Yeah. What's it like to rope out of a helicopter with a dog attached to you?
Luckily, Bear was pretty level-headed. I roped out a bunch of times, and we'd always muzzle them, just for safety and stuff like that. Sure. But he would just be super cool with it. He'd look at me, and he had enough trust built in me that if I was asking him to do it, that it was good. Like that I was going to protect him and take care of him. He flew a lot. We did a lot of what, like where you get in a helicopter and you fly off to a mission. So he was pretty level-headed about that as well. He actually kind of got to enjoy it. Like I could see the smile, the Malinois smile on his face when we, like the helicopter would come. He knew we were going to get bad guys.
Yeah, I'm going to get a bite.
Yeah, he'd be just as juiced up as we were.
Sure.
He was pretty funny. Sure. We had a little ritual when we were overseas, especially us guys. We're very habitual people, and so we play like some pretty loud and hard music while we were putting our equipment on and stuff like that, and in the team, and so Bear would start drooling, when I turned that music on, or when one of the guys would turn that
Pavlov's
music on.
dog instead of the bell. Yeah. We got the hard rock, huh?
Yeah. So I would start putting my kid on, and he knew his was next, and he knew anytime we were putting our kid on, we were going to work, and that dog, he truly enjoyed working. Like that was his passion.
Yeah.
So it was pretty fun. In fact, so much so that when he retired to me, some music came on one time, when my wife was with us, and some hard rock came on, and Bear started drooling, and she couldn't figure out why that he was so antsy and he was drooling all over the place. It was pretty funny.
Wow, that is a funny story. How long was that after he had retired when that happened?
It was fairly recently after he retired. He's gone now. He passed a few years ago of old age, but it was probably about 6 months after he retired.
Okay. And God, that type of situation, it's one thing, we hear about, the camaraderie amongst your other team members, okay, in special forces, other Green Berets, because of, hey, having to depend on one another in time of high stress and battle. But what it must be like, that bond, that you had with Bear.
It was, I mean, he was my best friend. Like, my brother's my best friend, but Bear was my best friend. Bear was my everything. He was my thick and thin. He was both on active duty and in retirement. That dog was my everything. He was there for me 100% of the time. So much so that I feel like I might have let him down a few times, like having to do Army stuff or deployments, and him feeling left behind when he was retired, but he was my absolute best friend in the world. My brother, my go, I would have had him as my best man in the wedding if I could have, he was that much, to me, that's where that dog was to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he did a lot in terms of not only protecting you each and every day, but comforting you too, even after you came back.
In retirement, I just didn't realize how much I relied on him, even during and after in the wars. When you share that bond with something like that or with him, it's an intense bond that, I can't even, it's a different bond. I have a pretty strong bond with a lot of my brothers that I deployed with, but to have the bond that I have with him, he absolutely saved my life. He absolutely saved my brothers to my left and right lives. He was 100%, he was there for me.
Hey, Travis, we're going to talk more about this and how he inspired you with Second Chance Canine, but we've got to take a break, so we can go to the news, but don't go anywhere. Please hang on the line because we want to talk about Second Chance Canine and what Travis has done to help veterans training service dogs. We'll be back in just a little bit.
Sounds great.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix call toll free 866-536-1100. Now, back to Pet Talk Today with your host and everyone's favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Today, we're actually speaking with Travis Hall, Green Beret, member of the Elite Special Forces team, and talking about him and his canine dog Bear. They did 4 tours in Iraq. But also, Travis is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Second Chance Canine. And before we went to news, we were talking, Travis, about the bond that you and Bear had. We talked about how it's one thing where you have this incredible bond with your other special forces team members when you go into battle, when you go into combat, but that amazing bond that you had with Bear. But there was a point in time where you guys ended up having to separate from one another. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So when I exited active duty and went contractor and went National Guardsman. And so when I did that, Bear was still fairly young, and he wasn't able to retire with me at that time. And so there was real fear in my part that I would never see him again. And so, fast forward, I get out and, I don't see Bear for about 6 months. And then at that time, like I get a call when I'm home off one of my trips, and, it's the kennel master, and they'd asked me to come take a look at him because he was having some problems and he was showing some problems. Well, long story short, I go look at the dog. He's just kind of in bad shape. And it's because he just wouldn't transition. Like he and I, had done trips together, and I don't know if it's something that I had done or something that we had done together, but he just wouldn't transition to another handler. And so they called me in and they wanted to see if it was everybody, if maybe the dog was suffering from PTSD, or if it was just because it wasn't me. And, long story short, I go down there and check on him, and he's excited. He's so excited to see me. He's jumping, he's crazy, whereas other people walk by and he's like attacking the bars, and attacking his kennel and stuff like that. So, I'm a civilian now, but so I pull Bear out. We spend some time together. I clean him up and help the guys out at the kennel because they're having such a hard time. This is a dog that if you go to his kennel and try to take him out, he's bit 3 people, intentional, but, not bites that they wanted at this time. So
yeah, we
clean him up. We hang out for the day. I get some food in his belly. He actually eats. He's so excited. And, the day ends, and I'm kind of devastated because I'm like, I got to leave my dog again, and so it kind of reopened that wound, for me, I'm sure for him as well. And then the next day, I get a call if I could come down again. And, the kennel master is a friend of mine. And so I go in. This time my wife comes with me, just because I was off. We were both off. And we're looking at Bear. We're kind of cleaning him up and hanging out with him and stuff. And the kennel master hands me like this packet and a leash. And he says, take your dog. Just don't screw me over, fill this packet out. So I grab him, like I hook him up to the leash and I don't let them change their minds. And we go load up in the truck and we're out, and it's funny because I'll never forget as we're doing this, as we're leading, and we're retreating, we're escaping basically from this kennel. He's looking back at the kennel and looking at me with like a confused look on his face, like, did you just break me out of jail? Kind of thing, and he's like, and he's like, go, 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 he's like telling me to step on the gas, and just get moving, and so the cool thing was, my wife and I had already had this talk, when I was ETSing, that if the opportunity ever were to come up, that I was 100% ready to take Bear, and so we'd already had this talk, we were already prepared for it, and we were going to 100% do it should it happen, and it did. Luckily for me, it happened, which I'm super thankful for, and it changed my life.
Yeah, that was a life-changing event for you. Tell us how and what the rest of the story is.
Well, and so that having that dog, not having a dog for the first time in 3 years for that 6 months was hard. It was one of those things that I wasn't prepared for, and not having somebody that could be by my side 24/7 and understand and just be that listener, that work buddy, that everything. Having him with me 24/7 was what kept me going. It kept the demons at bay. It kept everything, it kept everything kind of in check. And then losing him kind of spiraled a little bit. There was a lot of problems and stuff like that. I was lashing out, stuff, just normal, angry behavior for a loss, and then, getting him back kind of set me back on track.
And you had mentioned earlier that, PTSD and Bear and Bear was suffering PTSD.
I think so. I'm no dog psychologist, but I feel like he went through enough and he had done enough for us, as a nation that he had some PTSD.
Sure.
And that he was going through the same losses that I was going through. While he was my support structure, I was his support structure. And so without me, he was, doing the same thing. He was lashing out. He was, upset at the world basically, and he needed that back, so I'm happy that I could give it to him.
Yeah. How does this end up? All these experiences and you and Bear end up into Second Chance Canine? First of all, tell us what Second Chance Canine is.
So Second Chance Canine is a nonprofit that my wife and I started. We've been rehabbing dogs. Like, I have this thing for dogs, right? Like, so, dogs are my medicine. And, so I was finding these dogs in need because there is an overabundance of misunderstood Belgian Malinois, German Shepherds. There's a lot of movies out and stuff that glorify the dogs, and that's great. But what they don't understand is there's thousands of hours of training in those dogs. And so people get them thinking that this puppy that's so cute is going to just be cute forever. And most times are not. If you don't give a Belgian or a high drive German Shepherd a job, you're destroying your home becomes their job, And so I was finding these dogs that were either neglected, abused, maybe not even neglected or abused, just misunderstood. And I was kind of bringing them in and fixing them, behaviorally, and then giving them to my brother group guys, like not as a service dog, but just giving them to them, guys that wanted a solid pet. Then one day, I had my dog and I was training, I had a puppy that I was training, and she was actually the granddaughter of Bear, and I was training her to be my next service dog, and a friend of ours went through some stuff, and he went through a program, and he was looking for a service dog. And so we talked about it, me and some friends, and we decided to donate her as his service dog. Even though she was supposed to be my future service dog, I was willing to. My dog was still fairly healthy, and I was willing to, give him that dog and let him have the same thing that I had.
And from there, where did things go?
So that was the very first service dog that we donated. Then we kind of started doing it a little bit without the nonprofit. One day my wife and I sat down and we looked at a spreadsheet of what we've spent on dogs, and it was basically a college fund. And so we were like, hey, we've really got to start a nonprofit to do this. If we don't, we can't continue, And so, we started it about 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, we started Second Chance Canine as an official nonprofit, 501c3, so that we could solicit help and ask people to help us. It's very much a village kind of thing. Like we need volunteers, we need monetary donations, we need equipment, we need training, and so with all of that, it's kind of like blown up. First 9 months of the nonprofit I spent in Africa. Wow. I was deployed to Africa, and so we didn't do a whole lot with it then. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing is, while I was in Africa, a Belgian Malinois was presented as a rescue to me. So I rescued. I'm over in Africa, fighting the war on terror, and I find this Belgian Malinois. And, it's typical, like dogs and Travis stuff.
Hey, Travis, so I've got to go ahead and go to break, to commercial break to hear from our sponsors, but we want to talk more on the other side of that break. Before we do that, what's the website address if people want to check out Second Chance Canine? Yeah, it's secondchancecanine.com is our website. And is there a dash between the K and the 9? Nope, just secondchancecanine.com. Secondchancecanine.com. Check that out. Donate to them. They need your help. We'll be back right after this break.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix call toll free 866-536-1100. Now, back to Pet Talk Today with your host and everyone's favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Will Bangura, and you are listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX. where I take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Today we're doing something a little bit special. We are interviewing Travis Hall. Travis is my special guest, former Special Forces Green Beret canine handler. We've been talking about his experiences in Iraq as a canine handler with his dog Bear, and what that was like and the bond that they had. And both of them witnessed lots of shootings and lots of explosions, and then later on they were able to get back together, and it was something that was a life-changing event for both Bear and for Travis. Travis, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show, and I want to be able to give you the opportunity to really share with our listeners and everyone, capsulize what does Second Chance Canine do, and what are your needs? Obviously, a nonprofit organization, you need funds. It only goes as far as you learn, the money that you have. And you can also, probably use other donations. Didn't you just recently, get some food donated to you?
Yeah, we did. We got basically a dog food sponsor. He's gonna, pay for, all of our dog food for the next 6 months or 8 months or a year. We haven't really decided yet, but yeah, funds would be great. We want to build a facility. We want to grow. Basically in a wrap up, what we do is we take, a rescue dog and basically a rescue veteran, and we recreate that team environment. What my goal is all my guys have deployed with these dogs. They've deployed with these high drive dogs. And so, when they retire, they lose that team environment, right? Like all my guys are special forces or special operations, like whether they're Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Rangers, Air Force, pararescue men and stuff. So when they retire, they kind of lose that team environment. And what I'm personally trying to do is recreate that environment for them, by giving them a dog that they're familiar with, that they've been deployed with. I'm absolutely trying to set them up for success and put them back into that safe and happy and healthy team environment. Like they have someone to rely on. They have their best buddy, and we're making some adjustments to the website so that you guys can actually read, some of the placements that we've done. It's life-changing.
Give us give us your website address again, because people, can check out and see exactly, what you do. And like you said, you're going to be adding some content to the site where, people can, what are they going to be able to read about?
The impact that these dogs have on our veterans' lives. I mean, it's amazing. The website is Second Chance Canine, Second Chance spelled out, and then kilo9.com, secondchancecanine.com. And, our YouTube is got a lot on there as well. I try to do some informative stuff. I try to introduce you to the rescue dogs. We try to keep our veterans a little more private just because they're from the special operations community. Absolutely. But our dogs are definitely all over it. So our YouTube page is just Second Chance Canine, searched out on YouTube. And, that's what we're super proud of. We have a Patreon. If guys want to search us on Patreon, that's a way that I really enjoy, interacting with people, because with Patreon, it's not just me asking for your money constantly. I can actually give back to you as well. Like, if you have dog training tips that you need, I specialize in the high drive dogs, like those military style dogs. So if you have one of those dogs and you maybe are struggling with something, on Patreon, I can 100% help you. We can post it up to the group so that everybody can kind of, if you're having that problem, there's more than likely a high chance that other people are having that problem as well. And so, those are just ways that I like to reach out and to try and help people. But yeah, man, we have big dreams. We want to build a facility so that we can have a retreat for our guys to come and do dog training with us. We want to rescue more dogs. I'm only able to do 2 at a time right now, just because of the constraints of our facility. So we want to buy a property where we can save up to 16 dogs at a time, and just keep growing this, keep making this bigger and better. That's the Green Beret way. Every time we go somewhere, we try to make it better than when we left it. And that's what we're trying to do.
And people can donate, directly if they get on your site. Can they do that?
Yeah. There's a donate now button on the website. If you guys want to jump on there and a donation, I super appreciate it.
So guys, let me just say the name or give them again your web address. It's Second Chance Canine. You're going to spell out Second Chance, then it's the letter K, the number 9.com. secondchancecanine.com. And they can not only donate money, but do you have like a list of like supplies or things that you need? Is there anything like that on there?
We have Amazon Smiles, so if you want to send us supplies, we have Amazon Smiles. It's just Second Chance. If you just search Second Chance Canine on the Smiles app, you'll find it. I try to go on and update it as much as possible. We're always looking for harnesses, leashes, collars, kennels, like berry kennels and different kennels and stuff. We're always looking for that kind of stuff.
And this is all tax deductible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can write that off on their taxes. So, you'd be doing a lot of good. So yeah, go to Second Chance Canine, again, spell that entire word out, Second Chance, no spaces, the letter K, the number 9.com. And, you'll be giving to, an incredible organization that's doing, incredible work. Real quick, Travis, we've got just a couple minutes. Can you share with us maybe a success story and what impact, it had?
Oh, absolutely. So, recently we had, a young Air Force veteran who's being, retired. And he was just struggling, he was struggling with kind of life, post-military life. He was struggling with military life a little bit. He had done far more than he should have, and he laid it all out there for us. And, I was reached out to by another organization to maybe possibly get him a dog. And he went from, and I don't want to air his dirty laundry too much, but he went from having, like a little bit of an alcohol problem and super, reserved and not very approachable to now him and that dog are just crushing it at life. That dog goes everywhere with him. That dog is his dog now. The cool thing is when I kind of like rescue these dogs, I'm kind of dad, at first, but then I find they're forever dads, and so with this pair, they're out and about again. They're doing things again. The relationship with his wife and his children has just grown back to what it was before the deployments, and so it's just this amazing, life changer, it gives the guys something to look forward to every day. And it gives them, a new lease, it gives them their teammate, they get their teammate back.
Absolutely. Now with everything that you've done for, all these other veterans and helping them with the dog, do you currently have a dog? Do you have a new service dog?
So I have my dog, which is the daughter of Bear. Her name is Barin. So every dog I get, I name Bear.
Okay.
Whether it's in different form or fashion. So I have Bear. She's 9 though, so she's getting ready to retire. And yesterday, actually, I rescued a 3-month-old Belgian Malinois, and his name is Kuma, which means bear in Japanese. So he's actually sitting right at my feet now as I do this radio interview, little Kuma. And, he's been awesome. I've only had him for less than 24 hours and he's super cool. He's going to be probably my next service dog.
Wow. That's fantastic. We've got about 2 minutes left. What you want to tell our listeners that, you need the most and what can they do to help out Second Chance Canine?
For us, it's just give us a follow on our social medias, on our YouTube. We really want to grow that stuff. If you for the cost of a cup of coffee, you can be a patron for us. And, that's where I want to see people go is Patreon.
And they can find that link for Patreon, by going to the Second Chance Canine website. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. And if not, it's on our Instagram. Our Instagram is just the same, Second Chance Canine. But I really want to interact with you. I want to hear what you have to say. I want veterans to reach out. We can't help them all. The ones that we can help, we want as big an impact in their lives as we can. I'm not here just to take your money. I want you to be a part of it. You know, like, I really want you to feel like you're getting buy-in from me, and that, like, this is a big deal. You know, we've got to change it. We've got to change the narrative for our veterans. We have to change the narrative to how we think and how they think. And instead of, you know, maybe a guy can get off the alcohol or get off, you know, whatever it is he's suffering through, if we can create that team environment.
Well, you are doing fantastic work, and it has been an honor to have you on today's show. Folks, please visit secondchancecanine.com. Travis, thank you for being here. We're going to have you back on again, but we've got to go ahead and end the show today. I'm Will Bangura. Thanks for being here today. You're listening to Pet Talk Today. Be sure to join us next Saturday right here on 1100 KFNX. We're going to be here from 9 to 10 a.m. Thanks for listening. We're out of here.
News, talk, sports. The pulse of Arizona. 1100 KFNX, Phoenix.